Hey Mixed Firm Geeks, and welcome to what I guess is kind of a hype train video, in that we're super hyped about it, but I don't know whether
if there are enough of you out there.
Yeah, exactly. So welcome Mixed Firm Geeks to this very niche video about one of our favourite breweries, Allagash, and one of the breweries that we were super lucky enough to visit while we were filming our documentary out in New England, which comes out in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Or already has if you're watching on Dave.
And it's kind of, this is a bit of a prequel and a bit of a sequel of a video.
Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago we did a video explaining mixed firm, so the differences between kettle sour beers, wild/tamed beers, full-on mixed firm beers, and then spontaneous beers. And spontaneous beers are what we're drinking here.
My head's still spinning, Johnny, from that one, but do go back and watch it because it's amazing.
Yes, and it will teach you exactly what we're talking about here, which is all spontaneous, all stuff that's been not fermented by adding like a bucket of yeast, but by using completely natural yeasts from the air, from the trees, from the natural environments that you brew in.
Nature, not nurture.
Yeah, exactly. So these beers are all brewed to some extent in the Belgian tradition of lambic. Yeah. So these beers are brewed like normal beers, and then they, instead of being cooled very, very quickly to avoid infection, they're cooled very, very slowly to encourage infection in things called cool ships, which are giant swimming pools, usually at the top of a brewery, that's open to all the elements. And the air is full of these yeasts and microbes, microfloras, that start to ferment the beer, but it takes a lot longer. So what Allagash have done is not just use that lambic tradition, but kind of transport it over into the US. They've started using their own their own grain, their own hops. They're aging their own hops, and of course the local yeasts to them.
Yeah.
So it's entirely unique.
The terroir.
The terroir, exactly.
It's unique to them, and they're Belgian style in the way they're doing it, but they're not claiming to be like
anything like that. And hopefully we'll see the flavours that you get are totally different. So we're going to start this with Resurgam, which is the closest thing they have to a Gers. So a Gers has to be bottled, has to be bottle conditioned, so it has to re-ferment in bottle to get the bubbles, and it has to be a blend of young and old lambic. Those are kind of the rules that they've followed, but then everything else is all them. The young stuff brings the sweetness, brings the sugar. The older stuff starts to bring in the funk, and you work out the balance between those.
And that's we were talking about how with blending you can get back some of the control of the flavour.
Yeah.
So that's
when you naturally inoculate, you're kind of holding your hands up and going, let's see what happens. And then you blend it to get the exact flavour profile you want.
Exactly. Wow, that's impressive. That's a great
That's
start.
one hell of a pop.
It's got that lovely sort of sherbety kind of it's sweet, isn't it? It's like farmyard sweet.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's somewhere between like really funky West Country cider and cloudy lemonade.
Yeah. I love that the sherbety thing to me is like awesome.
I'd say it's just a little bit more
lemony.
Yeah, I think so. It's got a little candied lemon kind of thing that I haven't had really from a Belgian beer. So maybe it's a little bit less fermented sugar.
They're good. They're great at the lemon vibes with the white as well. So
yeah, they love a bit of lemon.
Maybe we're going to get a bit more meringue going on.
It smells really smooth.
Carbonation's good for me.
Yeah, really nice. I thought it was going to be a bit over with a pop.
Yeah. But
it's really bouncy, really zingy. It's got a nice big finish. Sometimes you find Gers is a little bit vinegary on the finish. It's all grassy, lemony, kind of lemongrassy kind of thing.
Grassy, lemony,
lemongrass.
Yeah. No, it's really nice and fresh. I mean, that's great summer tipple. Right
So aging Gers, it's like the ultimate beer for aging, really. Even more than Imperial Stouts, they age really well. Most Belgian producers won't really love their beers until 18 months in.
Much like a baby. They're sort of boring, aren't they?
You're supposed to love them from the start, Brad.
They're rubbish.
So this was bottled on the 7th of November in 2018. So this is really fresh, which I kind of get. That's why I was getting quite a lot of sweetness from it, saying not everything had been fermented out. So this is young for a Gers, but actually it's very dry considering it's only been in bottle for 6 months at this point. A lot of breweries wouldn't release it before 3 or 4 or even 6 months. But it's tasting really well balanced, really smooth. So next we have Balaton. So Balaton is their interpretation of a creek or a cherry lambic. So cherry lambics are made very much in the same way as lambic, so everything's the same up to the cooling down overnight. They then make their sour beer, and then they age it for a certain amount over cherries. Sometimes in barrel, but that's a real pain because getting it back out. So usually they get the beer they want, and then age it over cherries in steel.
Yes.
So these guys, I think they've used local cherries, Maine-grown cherries.
Yeah, they were super keen on using everything as local as they could.
Yeah, that was a huge thing for Allagash and breweries over there in general. Like lots of Vermont grain and lots of Vermont hops increasingly. I was surprised they had the sunlight for hops, but there you go. So it's £2 per gallon. Fuck knows how much that is given our metric system.
Like, think about eating a pound of meat.
So what, you got a quarter pounder? So 4 quarter pounders. 8 quarter pounders per litre per gallon.
Per gallon. We don't know how much. That's an American gallon.
Why are we still
Which I think is smaller than I don't know.
Yeah. I'm going to assume it's quite a lot of cherries, or else they wouldn't put it on the label.
It's a metric ton of cherry. I think that's the correct terminology.
So we should get a lovely pink hue. There you go.
Look at that. Whoa. Never get bored of that.
Never get bored of that. So the really cool thing about cherries over the raspberry lambics is that you get the stones in cherries. So as well as getting that gorgeous, rich, throaty fruitiness from the cherry flesh, you get almond.
Almond, okay, yeah.
From the pips. Yeah, like the almondine comes from the pips. So you end up with marzipan or bakewell kind of flavours from it, just naturally. It's a natural pairing of like marzipan and cherries were born to go together because they were in the same fruit.
Bakewell tart.
Exactly. Really cherry-ady, much more traditional, glacier cherry smelling than the Belgian one.
It's not like massive and...
So the Belgians try, there's not enough of it anymore, to use Sharsbeek, super sour cherries. It doesn't say what kind of cherry they use, it's just that they're main grown. And I wonder whether they're a little bit sweeter than the style that the Belgians like to use. Because it is much more top of a Bakewell, Mr. Kipling style cherry. Sticks around, isn't it? What's that flavour?
It's hanging about.
I think that's almond.
Yeah, it's something... yeah, it's a little bit marzipan-y, actually.
It's got a sticky...
That indefinable hanging around. Because marzipan does hang around a long time, actually.
Oh, God, it does. You can smell it. It's the thing you smell when you cut into a Christmas cake, even though it's a fruit cake.
It's a lingerer.
Yeah.
It's a little bit... at a party. It's the guy that you can't get rid of. The marzipan.
He's really drunk and he's trying to tell you something important that's only important to him.
Go away, we want to go to bed.
Yeah.
If you were drinking that with a dessert, like a chocolate dessert, something really indulgent.
Yeah, 100%.
Dark chocolate that could like sort of counteract that.
Put that with some massive dark chocolate and it probably would come into its own.
Yeah, almost like kind of like coffee, sort of like darkness.
Yep.
That would be really good.
Yeah.
Almost like an after dinner wine or something.
A dessert wine.
One of those dessert wines. Not an after dinner wine, a dessert wine.
So, small caveat, this one, Little Sal, isn't actually spontaneous.
Yeah.
This falls more under the sort of the house culture mixed firm umbrella. So the third one we did in our mixed firm video, where it's basically a kind of Flemish red style. So they've brewed a red ale, then they've put it into barrels, either with a mixed culture of stuff that they've personally collected and created a culture out of, or it's just been infected by what's already in that barrel and started to ferment.
Yes.
But the super interesting thing about this one is, again, it's used Maine-grown blueberries.
Yes, and apparently it's quite an exotic colour, which I'm interested to see.
An exotic colour, is that what it
I'm not going to spoil what it says on the back.
Well, I presume it's purple, if it's
well, it says
blueberry.
Like ultraviolet or something.
Ultraviolet,
or violet. It says violet on the back. Yeah. Hang on a minute, that's not the colour I was expecting.
It looks like Ribena. Oh, I don't know. Hold it up to the light and it's quite exotic.
This is supposed to be violet. That is more rouge. Oh, I do like the smell of it.
It's one of those interesting beers where about here, it's all blueberry. And then when you get in there, the Brett and the lactose starts to kick in. But just here,
it's very, very finely carbonated, isn't it?
It's a fine carbonation, and it's a fairly rich body compared to the other two.
Yeah.
And it's got lots of lacto in it.
Yeah,
so
it's got that, it's
kind of yogurty.
Yogurty. it's got that viscosity to it, and it's a little bit jammy as well for me, which they're all nice things.
It's like a Muller fruit corner.
Yeah, it is quite. It's not pale, but it's like it's quite a soothing drink, I think. It isn't like going, "Wow, I'm going to smack you around the chops." It's like you just enjoy my rich, velvety, milky voluptuousness. But
So the question is, with a beer like this that isn't hugely complex, it's quite jammy, lacto-y, was it worth the extra time it took when you could have possibly kettle soured it?
That is the question.
I mean, it's a question that a brewery probably asks itself every single day. Like, it goes, is this lager worth 8 weeks, not 4? Is this mixed firm beer worth 6 months, not 1? And is this spontaneous beer worth 3 years, not 9 months? And almost always, I'd say yes. And there's more complexity on the nose of Little Sour than there would be in a kettle sour beer.
Yeah.
There's much less complexity than in these two.
Guys, watch the documentary when it comes out. It's incredible.
And we've got a profile specifically on Allagash coming as well.
Yeah.
I think what we need to remember with these 3 beers is that it shows a range, even within their wild beer program, of how they approach things. Yeah. And then, you know, in the documentary and the feature we do, we taste, obviously their white, we taste their, is it 14 Counties, which is their beer that's made purely from ingredients within that area.
That says something about New England and the richness of the environment there. They've got all of those amazing assets at their disposal.
Yeah. And that Resurgam in particular was stunning, I thought. Better than many of the Gueuses I've had in Belgium. Much more balanced, much more kind of modern tasting, like zingy and refreshing and more to a modern palate.
What can we take away from that? Can we try and raid the Gueuses a bit early? Well, is there any way we can go to the blenderies and try it before they want to give it to us?
Potentially. I mean, they'll all release it after about 3 to 6 months. So I think there's just, you know, lots of people say when they get a beer, particularly online, they'll go like, how long can I age this for? And my answer would always be don't, because you probably won't be able to age it in the right way.
In the right conditions.
So just drink everything fresh and you get something delicious like that. If you do have a beer fridge where you can keep that at 12 degrees, which is best for a mixed firm beer, if it's IPA or lager, go colder, then by all means age that and see what's happening. But drink it at every age and find out how it tastes and how you prefer it. Because we did our Orval video and we found out neither of us particularly liked really aged Orval. We liked it at the 9 months when it still had the marmalade, but the Brett was starting to take hold.
Yeah, just peaking.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my advice on what I learned from that. You know, fresh Gueuze is still delicious. And Lambic style beer is possible to make anywhere as good as the guys doing it in Belgium.
Exactly.
Just a little bit different.
I'll drink to that.